This time around I have two monitors to show, two broadcast monitors. They are both the same model types and the same sizes. They're a brand that I have never heard before and do not see around at all. They are the brand Melford. They are made in the UK. They're both 12 inches in size or 29 centimeters, so they're fairly small. That's actually smaller than, say, a Commodore 1084 monitor, just slightly smaller. As far as year of manufacture is concerned, I cannot find any dating anywhere on the monitors. My best guess is probably at the latest early 90s, but made in the 80s there's a fair chance of that too. I'll give you the tour with the camera now around the monitors. We'll have a look at the front. You get an idea on the dating just by the switches and knobs used. So here on the bottom you've got a power on and off switch, a rotary one, on, off. There's a green light there to indicate when the power is on or off. These lights have both failed on both monitors, but they do still turn on. There's your M for Melford. There's a widescreen button to get into 16:9 or back to 4:3 when it's turned off. Blue only. There are some red, green and blue colour adjustments there. You can use a small flat-headed screwdriver to get inside those holes and rotate the pots in there, but it's quite difficult sort of to do because it's hard to see in those very small holes, and you get about a quarter of a turn on each one of adjustment. That might be for saturation, that fourth one next to blue. Then there's your switches to control what inputs and what signal types go into the monitors, brightness knob and a contrast knob. So that's pretty much it for adjustments, and it's the same case on the other monitor, exactly the same. They are broadcast style monitors. I think that's their intent and purpose. They're fully metal. There's no plastic in them. Fully bezel and body is all metal. There's no speakers whatsoever inside. All Bnc affair. Let's have a look here at the inputs. So you've got composite video 1 and composite video 2, and then you've got inputs for red, green, blue, external sync, and there's probably a remote, 9-pin remote connection there, and you can switch on underscan, normal or underscan with that one. Now all these inputs here, I'm guessing that one side's inputs and one side's outputs. They're both wired directly to one another. Every single pair of inputs is wired. You can see that on the inside, and they're also all joined to a switch. They've all got a switch there that has a 75 ohm resistor on them, so you can turn it off or on every single independent input there. Funnily enough, they look property of BBC Northern Ireland. I don't really know how this thing managed to get up over here from there, but somehow it did. Tested for electrical safety, 2002 was the last time it was done for that. Let's have a look. Let's see, there's a warning sticker, but that also has some ID on it, Melford Electronics Limited, and there's the address in England, serial number, and there's, I believe, the model number. I don't know if that's a D or an O or a 0 at the start, but let's just say OU6-12. 12 is probably in reference to the monitor size, the screen size of 12 inch. So that's what we'll go for, Melford OU6-12. IEC input there for power, probably a fuse or two. What's its voltage? 215 to 240. And the other side's exactly the same. To get the outside cover off, it's just one screw there and another screw there. It's pretty straightforward, and I'll do that in a second. We'll have a look. This one's got its property of blacked out. And here there's a big toroidal transformer that you can just see there. Well, not really big, but same with that one. So that's pretty much it on the outside. Probably the only other thing I could show you is the rubber feet on the bottom, but no big deal about that. That one doesn't have any. It's got a couple. probably been removed from the other side. And I'll open it up and we'll have a look on the inside. Okay, the back shells are off. Now, we looked at the label before about them mentioning the company's name in England, so it's probably made in England. You wouldn't really guess or count the picture tube being made in England, and that is the case. So let's see what we've got inside. So there it is, it's a Panasonic tube. And I probably can't quite get it on there, but it is made in Japan, and its designation starts with M, so M for monitor, 29 for 29 centimeters in size, which is about 12 inches. So I've got a Panasonic tube, and we also have Panasonic yoke, which is also made in Japan. And let's go back a bit and just get a look at this thing. So again, no speakers. It's actually pretty tidy design inside. It looks fairly neat. It looks nice. There are a number of adjustable parts on the board there. I'll just call them pots. I don't know if that's technically correct for that type, but there are a number of those around the board. Let's have a look at the Bnc inputs there. So you can see that top one there. There's a wire across it to the other Bnc. Then it goes to switch, and then the switch has a resistor there. 75 ohm one. They all have 75 ohm resistors on them. There are some adjustables down the bottom there, and they are designated linearity, width, east-west pin cushions, so those will definitely give you control over screen properties, but they are in a very annoying spot right under the neck of the tube. They're very hard to get to. You can't really get through the left side here, it's all walled off. You can't really on this side either. You've got the flyback there. The flyback's a Phillips one, and I've checked both these models against one another, and they look pretty much identical, even right down to the board revisions. You can see the PCB, it might be too far away, but it's marked Melford Electronics. Give you some idea, but I still can't find any dating on the monitors, unfortunately. Like with the neck board there, it looks like every connector that joins into it is removable. Not always the case. Most neck boards have some hard wire connectors or some ground wires that are hardwired in, and you just can't simply disconnect. But that's pretty nice that you can fully disconnect the neck board and take it out by itself and not the chassis or anything else. Righto, so what we'll do now is hook some things up and turn them on and see how they look. Okay, both monitors are turned on, and the console that is hooked up right now is the PlayStation 1, a PAL PlayStation with Tobal number 2 running. It's only in composite at the moment. The monitor on the right is actually better insofar as that it is whiter. The whites are whiter, whereas the one on the left it appears a bit more yellowed or grey. Doesn't seem to matter what I do with brightness and contrast and colour settings. I can't get the left monitor to match the right whiteness of whites, its brightness. So I would say the monitor on the left has probably done a lot more hours and has worn out more than the right side one. But anyhow, I'm just going to show you around the back briefly, because I've got the PlayStation 1 hooked in. I've actually got the PS2 and the Saturn hooked in as well. So there's a lot of cabling going on around the back. That's a bit exaggerated because some of the cables are really long, way over the need of what they should be. But I've got all the consoles hooked into this left monitor, and then I've got piggybacked out of the monitor into the second monitor. So it's basically the second monitor is just copying the first monitor's image. That's all that's going on there. And the other thing I recommend with these monitors here, probably should do this with a lot of these BNC type connectors, is use these terminators. I found that I had to use these. This is a pretty old one, but it doesn't matter. I had to use these on the red, green and blue, on the extra outputs, inputs, whatever you want to call them, on the back here on the monitor to stop some interference. So it's probably worth doing. It did clear up, and those termination caps were put on. So again, PlayStation 1 PAL composite not RGB, just composite at 50 Hz because it's PAL. Now I have the Saturn hooked in, a Japanese Saturn in composite, so that's going to be 60 Hz when we switch. So this middle button here on the three switches here is for composite 1 and composite 2. So now I've gone to the Japanese Saturn and it's missing colour on both in composite, so it doesn't have any form of NTSC playback, and for some strange reason the monitor on the right can't lock onto the 60 Hz signal. Now I don't know if there's a jumper setting inside the monitor that can change this, because I have been fiddling with the jumpers inside and have had good results, but I've not been able to stop 60 Hz pictures from rolling. And again, they are identical model types, so maybe this has got a fault, I don't know. Now we'll switch over to RGB. So I've got to switch the RGB YUV switch on both, and then I have to switch to external sync for RGB, like such. The picture quality is actually pretty good on these monitors. It's quite nice, even with this one here that's just a little bit more yellowed and it's white. It's still a very nice picture. So RGB is displaying, still 60 Hz is rolling. 50 Hz RGB is fine, but 60 Hz no go. Now when I first plugged these monitors in, all I could get working as far as RGB or component is concerned was the component signal from the PS2. I couldn't get RGB working properly, but I found that if you change some jumpers inside the monitor, you can get RGB to work, but instead of composite component video. I'll just show you those three that I actually changed. So this bottom board here on the side of the monitor, there's LK1, where is it? LK2, and down further is LK3. Now I've tried many different combinations with them on and off and all sorts of things, but basically you get you can choose either component or RGB. I haven't yet managed to be able to get both working. It's simply this touch of a switch between the two. So that's your choice, either RGB or component at this point. I've looked up on the internet this model of Melford monitor, and I cannot find a thing. I can't find any documentation or any information at all about Melford CRTs. The Melford company is still in business, but they specialise in LCDs, public signage for railway use, sports stadiums, sort of rugged displays, weatherproofing type things. I probably could email them and see them if they've got any information on these older monitors, but I'm not really fussed. I'm a bit busy and it's not a high priority at the moment. But what I'll do now is I'll switch the monitors over to component and we'll see how we go there. So what you just saw then was Capcom Fighting Jam on the PS2 running via RGB. Now the monitors have had the jumper settings changed so they accept component. PS2 has been changed into component video output, as you can see just here. If I go back to RGB, it doesn't like it. Oh no, where have we gone here? That's it, component. Now the funny thing is, or I wouldn't say funny, but I've actually had to film this last part of the video a few times, and in that time this left monitor has developed a bit of an issue. It too is now rolling on 60 Hz content, that is at least in component here. The PS2 is PAL, so currently it's outputting a 50 Hz refresh rate, but if I boot up, say, Capcom Fighting Jam, which is NTSC, it may or may see it's rolling on the left screen as well. Just a moment ago it was not doing that. It was actually perfectly stable. So either the monitor is not properly compatible with a 60 Hz signal, or there has been a fault delivered. So I can stabilize it by just turning things on and off, but it could roll again at any moment. So we'll just count, I don't know, maybe it's a fault, I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, switch to progressive mode. That's why I like using this game. Now I don't expect these monitors to support progressive scan. They are fairly old, and as you can see, it does not work. It does not support progressive scan. And again, the monitor is rolling. No, I will not switch to progressive scan. See that? Clearly a problem has arisen there. Anyway, I'm going to finish the video off. Now these monitors probably are 80s, made in the 80s when I think about it. There's very little in the way of surface mount components, or there's none really inside. There's no on-screen displays. There's very few ICs. So the age is not necessarily an issue from that point of view, but given the amount of hours that they may have been used for and so forth, components wearing down, given you issues like this, it might be best to just give them a miss. You're better off looking for Sony PVM, I think, something a bit more modern that's got better usability. You don't have to go changing jumpers inside for different modes. If you don't like the Trinitron style tube, you could go for JVC or Ikigami if it's pronounced like that, or Panasonic, or you could even just go to the old Commodore style monitors, which arguably have as good as picture. So that's pretty much it for the Melford monitors as it is. I've got some, you may have seen my Facebook page with a recent update. I've got quite a number of Sony monitors come into my hands recently. There's even more than that, but that'll give me plenty more to film, and I'll no doubt do some videos on those in the future. So just stick around, and thanks for watching again. See you next time.